Let's look at Shoprite in 2020. Shoprite is in the process of selling the Nigerian division of its business. Shoprite is also looking to build its own wind and solar plants in order to meet its energy needs. Pick n Pay has started a new drive to target low-income shoppers who traditionally shop at Shoprite-owned brands. Shoprite is also leaving Kenya after what it deems an unsuccessful few years in the country. Shoprite's shares rose by 10% on the day it released its full-year results in October 2020. Despite COVID, Shoprite produced record sales of over 156 billion rand. Compared to other years, this does not sound like much, but consider that both its furniture and liquor stores were closed during the initial lockdown. Shoprite also continues to grow its market share. Shoprite owns a total of 2,352 shops across Africa, most of which are in South Africa. The supermarket division brings in the most revenue for the company. 78% of the company's revenue comes from its supermarkets in South Africa, while 11.6% of its revenue comes from its supermarkets outside of South Africa. 3.5% of Shoprite's revenue comes from its furniture division. 6.9% of Shoprite's revenue comes from what it deems other. This includes its pharmacies, as well as CompuTicket and some of its financial services. On the right, you can see a pie chart which illustrates this. The big orange segment represents the South African supermarkets. This means that most of the money that Shoprite makes comes from these supermarkets. When it comes to Shoprite's rest of Africa operations, it says that it is reviewing its African footprint while retaining a competitive position on the continent. It wants to reduce the overall cost of operations, and it wants to improve productivity. It also wants to start spending less money on shops across Africa. Let's look at Shoprite's revenue and profit. Over the course of the last 12 years, Shoprite has seen a very steady increase in revenue. From 2019 to 2020, what was deemed a very difficult year, Shoprite's revenue rose by 4.3%. Compared to other retailers, Shoprite remains the biggest retailer in the country, while other retailers have also improved their revenue during the same time frame. However, when we look at revenue change from 2019 to 2020, we see that Pick n Pay, Spar, Woolworths, and Shoprite have all increased their revenue significantly over what was deemed a difficult year. Massmart, of course, did rather badly in the last year. Let's look at profit before tax. When we look at revenue and we take away operating costs, what is left over is what we call profit before tax. Shoprite profit has plummeted over the course of the last 3 years. The profit before tax in 2020 dropped by over 17%. When we compare with other retailers, we see that most retailers have seen a drop in profit before tax over the course of the last year. This can be due to the difficulties of COVID. Pieter Engelbrecht is the chief executive of Shoprite. It's important to note that in South Africa, a CEO is paid around 5 million rand per year. That is 66 times more than the lowest paid employees. However, internationally, we want an average CEO to worker ratio of about 20 to 1 or 25 to 1. So if you remember that on average a CEO in South Africa gets paid about 5.2 million rand, let's look at Pieter Engelbrecht. In 2020, Pieter Engelbrecht got paid over 28 million rand. This is a 34.9% increase. This is mainly due to an LTI payment of 4 million, a cash bonus of 7 million, and a salary of around 16 million. Shoprite's executive pay average went up by about 26% in the same time frame. So what we know is, despite Shoprite suffering in terms of profit, they still managed to pay their executives very high salaries and bonuses. In order to see what would happen if you got the same increase, take a look at the LRS's wage calculator. I'll leave a link in the notes. In terms of non-executive directors, Shoprite's average went up by 41% from 2019 to 2020. When we look at the amount of workers in Shoprite, we see that from 2019 to 2020, the amount of workers went down by 5,816 workers. Since 2008, we have only seen increases in workers. However, from 2018 to 2019, we saw a stagnation of workers, and over the last year, we see a drop in workers. We know that this is not due to mass retrenchments, and it seems to be that this is due to Shoprite not replacing employees that have left the company. Shoprite says that 65% of the people that work for them are female. Shoprite also claims to have spent over 327 million on COVID-related costs. This includes things like security, clinics, temperature scanners, and sanitation. However, the biggest of these costs was 116 million, which was paid as a small bonus to staff. Another consideration is the Checkers 60/60 app. We should take a look at what these workers look like in South Africa, whether they are organized by the union and whether they are protected by the same rights as the rest of the workers. Shoprite recognizes Sakau as its biggest bargaining partner, and it also recognizes that 41% of their employees in the non-RSA operations are affiliated to various other recognized trade unions. For the purpose of this meeting, we represent Botswana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, South Africa, Eswatini, Uganda, and Zambia. Think a little bit about what stands out for you from this report, and what did you hear today that makes you feel worried? And feel free to contact me if you have any questions.